Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to another edition of Africa Discourse. I am Wilson Omasha. Well, today it is all about what is happening globally, but this time I'm going to zoom it down to Africa. Yes, the effects of Russian-Ukraine crisis in the economy and politics of Africa. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? The president of South Africa, Zimbabwe, and of course some others came together to applaud the deal signed by Russia and Ukraine not to allow grains to pass through the Black Sea to cut short the food shortage and of course inflation. The big question now is, how come, despite the fact that Africa is blessed with human and natural resources, somewhere along the line we are still connected, sometimes positively, most of the times negatively, to what is happening globally vis-a-vis the Russian-Ukraine crisis. Inflation, unemployment, fighting economy, and of course political uncertainties in some countries in African continents. Can't we just do it on our own so that the world will look up to us rather than us looking up to the world, some other Western countries to make ends meet? All these and more will take a look at today's installment of Africa Discourse. We're here in the studio. He is a legal practitioner, legal affairs commentator, and of course a clergyman. Me to welcome Dr. Patrick Awo-Osaigi. Welcome to Africa Discourse.
Thank you, Winston. Thank you for having me. My pleasure. Hello.
They're still expecting a lecturer from UNIBEN. I'd like to call him a comrade. Yes, Felix Osami. When he comes, he's going to join us in the studio or share sort of an opinion about what's really happening, the interconnectivity of Africa, what is happening in Russia and Poland and Ukraine. What do you have to say about this? Let us see if it's just going to take weeks, it's pounding 2 months, from then 2 months right now.
Absolutely.
When I think in that Russia video want to start crying because of the wretched news of plethora of sanctions slammed against the bodies, like the world is crying. Vis-a-vis the one that really concerns us right now, Africa. How did you get there?
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here, and to make sense with this, it's what we're here for. Now, taking a critical look at what happened, like a child's play, you know, there's this belief that the empty drums make the loudest noise. They have estimated President Vladimir Putin of Russia, believing that, you know, since the old beast of what happened yesteryears after the collapse of the Soviet Union, you know, it was more or less like Russia have gone into extinction from a bipolar to a polar world, and America have become the king of the ring, so to speak. But even at that, the good thing about Vladimir Putin, you can see he's a very focused, calculated man, and he had always envisaged this to be, because he knew very well, you know, they have been, for you to enjoy the kingship, so to speak, the polarity, the polarity of what American had always wanted to. You needed to deal with all the enemies that would necessarily hinder the ways of progress in that light. And that had been on. You know, the Cold War happened, I haven't said, the Cold War, the arms race, everybody trying to become. But Russia have, you know, isolated themselves and always very calculated and prepared for whatever the worst case scenario, and that's been their pattern. And you can see the man have always been so calm and calculated. Obviously, we know the rich oil they have there, and Kiev, the Ukraine, having to have affiliations with other regions, trying to tint towards the Western activity, and that didn't all go well. And obviously, we remember the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 and what happened. You know how it played out, and Kennedy threats back and forth to the country at the time, and Fidel Castro on his own, and eventually they had to bow to the popular talk, which everybody heard. But as it stands today, it's like a replay of what happened. You are becoming friends to my brother or a nearby neighbor. You want to have NATO, you want to have them, whatever you call it, and forgetting the recent past, what happened. In Baghdad, we have the America coming hard, the Arab Spring during the Obama time, and we saw all that happen. And nobody vilified them, everybody applauded them. Muammar Gaddafi was linked, brought down, and eventually toppled his government, and nobody saw anything wrong with that. And the other folks, the other guys you call the bad guys, like they call them, which I don't believe they are, you know, they didn't say anything. Now you are bringing the war. I remember the allegation that it was Russia that had assisted the person of what's his name? Former President of America, Donald Trump. You know, the allegation that hacked into the electoral server, all of those things that helped Donald Trump secure victory at the polls. But I also, all of this put together, we all talks back and forth, looking for a way to give the dog a bad name so you could hang it, and that's basically what it was. Eventually, now you're talking of Ukraine wanting to join NATO and all of that, and the big man Vladimir had to come up, I need to check this, and they warned them. We have brothers, we are one. He called him, Zelensky, come on, brother, we are friends, we have to do this. He tried to resolve this, but the young man fell because he was inspired. Like the proverbial motivational speakers we have in Nigeria that tell us started business with Chukwubo and today I'm a multi-billionaire, and they don't give us, just go ahead and then. So they were telling him, come on, you can stand up to him. You belong to United, you can join the NATO, you can join the United Nations, and all of that. They kept on warning, you can't do this to us. And they thought the warning and the appeal of Russia, Vladimir Putin, was a way show of fear, and it was very concerned. And I want to justify Vladimir Putin in the essence because I know I may be on the other side of the divide because people's opinion differs. I have right to mine, and I have not seen a man so focused and committed like him even in the West. He has been consistent and committed. Yes, you may say, well, the iron fist and policy that is hard. You see, nature by nature, we are a people that deserve to be dealt with that of some cruel measures. If you permit me, at least to support that, I appreciate the fact that rights were being abused as a lawyer. I should not concur with that, but we are looking at nationhood. I remember in the words of the army of Uganda, I say, few heads must roll if you must get things right. And basically, this has been the narrative. Now, this war started. We talked about the G7, they all came on board, and what they could discuss. Canada and Miss Ally in Italy, they were all together and they were making a mockery of putting on the horse with that, we're talking of serious matter, lives are dying, malls are being bombed, and you're talking of trivial issues. For me, it was more as a joke. Come on, boy, you can handle him. How will he handle him? You're talking, and the bombs were coming. Raining down torrents and people were dying until they had to start crying and leaving the country. And the place now is nowhere to go. Kiev is a disaster site. And as it stands, what have they done? Sanctions upon sanctions in your word. They have been sanctioning them. Of what effect is this sanction for a man who is well grounded and prepared? Vladimir Putin had prepared himself. Now who is crying? Vladimir Putin is not crying. The world is crying. Now the big question back to Africa, you say, well, we are here. Why would these two countries decide the fate of everybody? We're talking about crude oil has shot up now because of Vladimir Putin. They said they're sanctioning, would you sanction him? And then crisis in Europe. Go around Europe now, if everybody crying, complaining they don't have, things have skyrocketed, life is becoming total shit meted out on them just because one Vladimir Putin is there. And who is really in control of the economy? That's a big question we want to talk about. We're talking about who controls the economy as it stands. Now, we're going to say, well, probably we've been wrongly informed. We have been underinformed, not giving the right statistics of things. And today now, Africa, that which is our focus, is a very, very big disappointment. I must tell you, we know Afrocentric writer, as a classic, wrote about trying to debunk the dark or black nature they call Africa being the dark continent. In reading my historical books, I discovered that Eurocentric writers had called the African continent the dark continent. And then we revolted as university undergraduates that how would we be called, our lecturers inspired us to, yes, we can also look at some other Afrocentric writers. It's not a bad thing. We're looking at practical acts. It is here. We have the land. We remember the South African history. I want to go into more talk. Yeah. The South African history, and we saw that the Boers taking over lands from indigents, and they have been able to make use of this. They were able to transform South Africa over time. And before we saw, you go to misbreeds in South Africa, those that control the South African system today now, they are not colored people, they're not black colored people. The blacks are complaining they have taken our land. What have you been doing, you that have been there? And that is it. We are here, we're talking about land, expanse of land, vast land, leave Nigeria, all other African regions. Who are those controlling the massive farms? Robert Mugabe came of blessed memory now. I said, no, we have to send the white farmers out. They were what calls folks that had foresight, and they know that ensuring he fought those guys and ceded those lands to himself, and they applauded him. All the names, like what Nigerians do say, we're nationalizing multinationals. Do we have the technical know-how? Can we not manage it? Are we responsible enough to do the needful? These are questions that we're actually begging for answers. Having said that, they were unable, they failed woefully, they failed woefully, and that's what brought Africa to where it is. This relying on, and they can do it in Ukraine, and the grains will come to us, and we'll rebag it. You saw what happened. I don't want to be very, very sarcastic here. When Amosu, the governor of, Ogun State governor, and the pyramid of rice they did, and eventually it was discovered that it was some wood that were put together, deceiving your own people. When you can really put the work, you don't need to do propaganda and play politics with this. We need to get to work. You see, science, Rome wasn't built in a day, but men worked it out. We have to be serious. Africans are so full of leadership meeting here and there, Africa summit back and forth, G20 talking about it, and whatever, all the various presentations, OAU, ECOWAS, all we call it ends in talk. And that's it. But these guys over there, they don't talk too much. You don't say Vladimir Putin talking too much. He believes in working. And that is what has brought them there. Africa today depends on them. Like you rightly read the news. We are happy now that the Black Sea is opening up so that grains can come. Or we are applauding. How long can we continue to celebrate things like that? That's basically where we are.
Take a look at the nature of weight. according to agricultural science, which research, wheat as a grain or as a plant can do well in Arkansas.
Okay. So we have today politics and lack of focus, not wanting to pay the price. The average black man or black, I'm sorry, I'm a colored person and don't want to be very sarcastic, not everybody, but the way it appears to be, it looks like I've done some traveling and I've looked at a lot of people like me, their environment, and what they think about. They care about what they eat now. They care about they driving a big car, wearing the big necklace. Go to a Baltimore in America, you see black guys parading, latest bride, driving up and down. How they tell you they have this and that, they have billions in their account, doing what, hanging out in the club, and that's all they talk about. But these other folks, they may drive a car. I remember, it's a Warren Buffett, if I'm not mistaken, that his vehicle was a 1999 model of a car. He was not concerned. He's concerned as well. So these guys have a system. It's been planned for ages. It was born to the days of colonial masters. What happened? We were selling our able-bodied men as slaves for gin, a bottle of gin, a mirror. And you could say somebody who would go and work. You could take that mentality. It's still on. And that's the problem. We would rather want to, instead of do the stuff, you rather send money there and just beat and send the product here so that we eat. The Esau Jacob principle of Bible. That's what we see. So that is a big problem. We need to have an evaluation and have a rethink and sit up to look into the future, because in the near future we will not continue to depend on another man. Just imagine the war, or they are not agreed to that. Look at the price of food items is skyrocketing all over Africa.
Even Europe is going on strike.
You understand? Why is it that we don't know what to do? We have all this, like you just established, that the crop could grow here, it could grow here, but we're not doing it because nobody wants to pay that price, because we are considering the term government. Maybe I have 4 year term. In 4 year term, I should be the monument somewhere. 4 year term, I should have some money to this amount. It's Swiss bank. If somebody like a general, one-time general, have expanse of money that was traced to him, opening fake accounts, I don't know what listening for. They just say, and the British government is going to say, what is it? How did you get this account? And say somebody opened an account for me. You start up money from the country in another man's land, money that would be doing great work in our country. And yet we keep talking about, we don't know what is happening. When some folks are looting the treasury, too much opportunity out of the country. Swiss bank is tinted with all black continental men that have their money there. And that is the problem. We don't want to start up something and set in the near future. You remember Norway when they discovered crude oil? They said, no, we will leave our crude oil. Let's continue with our fish. The normal bazaar we call it, fish. Let's continue the export of this. Let's leave the oil for our generations unborn. We don't have such mindset here.
That's planning.
That's planning. Here we let's share it because I will soon leave office as if everything rises and falls. That is the problem. At the beginning of this country, when the independence was gotten, we heard of our dear father, one of the very celebrated father now. At least we should celebrate him for uniting Nigeria. But we also have to ask questions. Why are you not telling us that we don't have anything to do with money? The only problem we have is that we don't have to spend it. He went to Grenada, paid 6 months striking working salary. Say you are striking for what? How much? Treasury. Oh, you are sending money. And they were celebrating him all around. That pride of the black man wanted to aggrandize himself, not looking at the near future, saving for rainy days. That is the problem. We lack plan. No policy, no plan. All we do, the Bank of Industry and all those banks check the record. Statistics will reveal, I don't have figures now. Now we reveal that over 60 to 70% of those that apply in, they are not sincere people. Monies are put out diverted to other things. Police and lawyers, courts are running around trying to prosecute, using the same that is not available to prosecute, to collect what have been taken illegally and fraudulently. These are the challenges we have in Africa. The more we continue with this, it's going to be terrible in the near future.
All right, now Cyril Ramaphosa, South African, of course, Zimbabwe president, one other president of Africa went deputed in the course of this conflict. Yes. Now, Kaban Bidisa saw this coming and went to believe.
I think that's right.
Cyril Ramaphosa,
yes,
the president, was one other president from African continent went to see Putin.
Yes.
Does it mean that they saw it coming?
Because
right now, I think it's like you guys went to that place to plead your cause. What about the continent? You just talk about your country only. I mean, talk about the impact, the fallout of the war in Africa. This president, they have foresight.
Like you answered yourself in what you are saying. They don't think they do. They won't do that. Instead of you to start planning for the troubled days, going to see Putin is like you are just pledging allegiance and loyalty to him. You are not going to see Putin as we are winning you or give you a ultimatum. Who are you? He will just see across his like, okay, look at this poorly. Okay, from Africa. Oh, where are you from? Zimbabwe. They have expanse of land, a great farmland in the wild. And what the costs have done. Now they are going there to cap in hand begging, please, that they put in. We are here as your children. That they put in, please, have compassion on your children. We are not part of the world. We are always loyal. We are not part. They have that kind of slavery mentality that have transcended over the centuries and over the years. That is still the same narrative. And that's what we must get rid of. You need to wake up. I thank God for Murtala Mohammed in the 70s. 77, Festa came on board. And what was his agenda? He said he want to boost the dignity of the black man after they have read the word of slave trade and all of that. So there was need to start saying good things about the black man. So he came up with Festac. We have culture, we have things we can exhibit so that they can all come. And it was a huge success at the time. But unfortunately, he died. He died before the whole thing came up, because he died 76, and the year just after, before Basanjo, they then took over and then executed what that young, maybe 38-year-old general had for his country. So until we start having people in the likes of Ogbemudia, who were not Harvard, what do you call it? What those your schools? No, I'm talking of Harvard Business School, London School of Economics. They didn't go there. They only had trained, recruited into the army, and they had sense enough to bring in University of Benin, Central Hospital, and the whole lot of industries around the Bender State. I'm talking of General Ogbemudia, and so many other military. I know Yakede, to mention but a few. A good number of them did so much. But this Harvard Business School, London School of Economics, that we are now coming with certificates that we are in Nigeria, we are having London School of Economics policy to run a country that you don't have models. I think that is the problem. We need to get back to the nitty-gritty and look holistically and look at this problem. This hydra monster can be combated. We need to get back to work. The government should, I am not a presidential aspirant, talked about plant maize and Bado and all those things. That's not what we are talking about. Education is not just to have certificates, it's to have a sense of value. You have to use dynamics and use some indices. Not every model you see in the Western world will work here. They don't have Fulani heads killers in the world. They won't tell you that. But you have that here. How do you combat that? How do you resolve communal crisis? These are the long-time troubles that have happened, and land grabbing and all whatnot. If we have good laws that cede land on lease, all lands belong to government, and let's have a proper way, not on friendly ground. I remember one time Minister of the Federal Capital Territory and the present governor of Kaduna State, in the person of Nasir El-Rufai, when they called him to give account of say, he now asked the Senate, who will I give lands to? Will I give to my enemies? When they say you are giving land to your friends, and he said, yes, I gave to my friends. Must it be so? Is that morally correct? It should be on merit and grants on people that know what to do, so that we can have good account of what we are ceding lands for. That is basically the problem. We need to wake up. We need farmers, those that know what mechanized farming is all about. And we need to get the right machines that will help. But will they do that? When that huge money comes, it will just be shared. I remember something happened. I will say a very digressing the way now. We had a landlords meeting where I was secretary, and a man I celebrated, a very senior colleague who had been called a father figure. So we were there, and we had plans that we're going to grade the roads, we're going to put up streets, signposts and the houses, so that should, in case there's problem, they can always come around. But what happened? When the money collected money, the very senior colleague, a lawyer, and said, well, this money we have received now, what we should do is to share it to do Christmas. And I said, sir, but this is, I can read the minutes of meeting. I'm the secretary. This is what we said we're going to do. I said I should sit down there. You understand that I'm very zealous, that they old men now, that they want to use this one to start. That from next year, we'll now begin to. I now resigned immediately. I told him I'm not going to be party to this. And they said I should come and take. They're going to buy cows, and I had to send somebody to go and share, because I felt betrayed. I felt disappointed that a senior lawyer would do that. I didn't expect that. I expected that we should be more rational and reasonable. I know it's not hungry, but that attitude of let's just be sharing it, it's what's not sensible to me. And that's basically what it is everywhere. We go everywhere now. Everybody's thinking of how to get something for himself. Yeah. And when we keep doing this, the national dignity and all what's not that should be national integrity, and then we see all of us suffering in the long run. To date, we don't have lights, and you expect us, how will you do your storage when you even plant all these things? So we end up, everything go back to the trash.
All right, now if you take a look at other angles, some are saying that the reason why we are having these issues because Africa as a continent is not technologically driven. How true is this assertion? We don't have the tech.
Well, I take exception to that, because I know Benin man, a Nigerian, developed drones for them in the United States. Peter or Philip Ogwamile, the one that was the fastest drilling machine, it's a Nigerian who the American government have failed to release him to come back home. And there are a good number of them. Aquarian Peters, a whole lot of them. I think Ekwere is in drilling, and then the other Philip Gwamile in the computer world, and then a whole lot of our people that are causing, stir in the international scene. And we know them, a good number of them. My friend, Associate Professor Ronsayena Christian, he graduated here with a first class at Nigerian Law School 2007. I can see his exploits, 40 under 40. Under 40 award is receiving bagging award back and forth in the United States of America, and then you are telling me we don't have the tech. Look, our doctors are leaving Nigeria, being shipped out of this country, and they are getting great jobs. You saw the other doctor the other day, Yoruba man, forgotten his name, who did a Siemens twins separation. And you said we don't have the know-how. All we need is the environment. Nobody's talking of know-how. You build a hospital that is building is fine, and then there is no equipment in there, and you said you're going to work as a doctor. How would that work? That's the challenge. We are building skyscraper building and not having the work. In India, as it stands. In India, as it stands today, they carry out their major operations and not 5-star buildings. They are under like a form of tents.
So they say they have the equipment. We don't have it.
We don't have the equipment. We have
building.
Building don't perform operation. You need the know-how. You need the equipment. You need the medical equipment. You need to pay for it. Not borrow. And at the time, a governor in the state opened the central hospital, and the president himself, who is a master of corruption, clamping down on whoever is corrupt, he commissioned that, and that hospital, after some time, those equipment were taken away, and nobody's asking questions. And I learned from the grapevine that it was bought from some other sister hospital. And the big question is this: who best? Now we just left. And this person has said, well, the problem with leadership that we have not been building. We have more churches than industry. The same person who deceived the Edo people and did not bring the equipment into the said hospital is telling Nigerians now that the problem we have is that we have more churches than industry. The one you build to do it. So why we lie to ourselves? So when you speak from both sides for our mouth, this is the challenge we have, that you can come out to speak, or you have been saddled with responsibility. Nobody is able to come to you. The moment they say political enemies, I don't belong to any political group, and I've been like that. I just speak the truth the way it is. If you say what's right, I follow you. If what is wrong, I go against it, because we must get it right. That's why we are all involved.
All right, if you take a look at the aspect of energy, talking about crude oil, take a look at it properly, you get to realize that the price of crude oil, even the petrols in the continent, is increasing.
Obviously.
We had here.
Yes, we had it.
What in the world is really going on?
Like I just said,
yes.
Who's going to refineries prior to now? Now, all those refineries, we have illegal refineries. Okay, we have illegal refineries that government is clamping down, and what they call them civil defense, and all those guys, wonderful guys doing fantastic work, arresting illegal refineries, operators, destroy them. Now, what stops you from giving them, legalizing the illegal refineries? If you feel it's not fit for the certain things, but the knowledge is there. You could tell you don't know what they are doing. Excuse me, because the illegal refined product is running our vehicles, although it's damaging us. Let's get the right technology, let's assist them and do it right, so that we can liberalize this thing, and then we have the product everywhere. If it's not from now, you now send it out and importing it as product. Then we can, if illegal refineries are running, and they are running it, and it's even orange some of our engines, that they arrest them, until you stop. I'm not talking about pipeline vendors, I'm talking about illegal refineries. Now, I know when President Buhari was out of the country on some health matters, and the presidents and vice presidents, there was some modular refinery project he came up with, which was amazing. Now, what happened to us? How are we now waiting for a Dangote refinery? To expect the world that Dangote is under Nigeria. We cannot. I don't understand. We are waiting for the government to say we are waiting for the refineries. Very soon the refinery will be up to notch.
And we just want to go for a break. All return. We'll continue with this discussion. How come what is happening in Russia and Ukraine is affecting us in Africa? We have everything we need to at least disengage our dependence on this country, so we can still remain who we are meant to be. Africa as a great continent. Don't go right back. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is Africa Discourse. We're taking a look at the economic and, of course, political implication of the war between Russia and Ukraine in Africa. That I've been talking about, and of course I have Dr. Patrick Abos has been sharing his thoughts and of course his opinion. And just coming right now, right in the studio, he is a lecturer at Uniben. I call him comrade. I don't want. To me, he's a comrade. He's a lecturer in fact of knowledge. We to welcome. Yes. Felix Osareme, I really appreciate your coming, comrade. Hope you don't mind me calling you comrade.
No, good afternoon.
Are you a comrade?
Yes, good afternoon. Well, he's a comrade in the struggle. Since Nigeria is defined by the amount of struggle you have.
All right, so we'll be speaking at length about the conflict in Russia and Ukraine, the way it's affecting Africa, despite the fact that we have all it takes to be independent from these countries ravaging the world. We see capture because of what they are doing to themselves. Talking about the blockade of export of grain, though they've already reached a conclusion and agreement that the pathway and the Black Sea should be open for there to be exports of grain for, to checkmate the looming hunger and, of course, inflation of food items. And, of course, we also talked about also the energy crisis being experienced even in Europe globally right now. It's like on the increase, and Africa also is not left and is affecting us. And we are asking this question: how come this is going on even in Africa, despite our large human and, of course, natural resources? Take it up from there.
Thank you, Wilson, and viewers at home. Good afternoon once again. It's unfortunate that Africa has become the backwater of human civilization and development. Yet this same Africa has been the forerunner. Africa is the home of man, archaeologically and historically. And even if you look at the Bible, certain allusions have been made to Africa as a producer, a sustainer. Right from the time of the Egyptians, the Israelites, Africa has always been a provider. Well, historically, to Africa was hijacked in the process of development as the author of the book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, Walter Rodney, how he explained that Africa had development, Africa was developing, growing on her own, then development was truncated because Africa came in contact with Europeans. And since then, things are falling apart because the center no longer holds. Let's take a clue from Chinua Achebe, who also made the same point clearly, because Achebe's work was explaining the distortions of African society as a consequence of interaction with European imperialism during before colonial rule was later imposed. There was imperialism, then there was colonialism. Absolutely. Now we are in the third phase that Kwame Nkrumah described as neo-colonialism. And Kwame Nkrumah explained, or Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana explained then that neo-colonialism is going to be worse than colonialism. Because he said under colonialism, it is a white man and a European, a foreigner that will come to your country, exploit your country, take your resources to his own country, and develop his own country at your expense. But our neo-colonialism will be different because it will be your own citizens who will masquerade as rulers. This is the same thing that Frantz Fanon argued when he was talking of his revolution in Algeria. That the people that will exploit Africa will be Africans. They will not be exploiting Africa on behalf of Europeans. And this will bring us again. I'm sorry I'm a bit academic, but they are very clear. All these things we explained in the 60s. We are in 2022. That's why I'm going historical, so that you know the story very well. Now, Sami Ami, one of the Latin American scholars who belong to the ECLA, they call it the Economic Commission of Latin America, they came up with this explanation that there is unequal development. Then Teotano dos Santos talked of dependency, that your life will be such that you will think you are free, but you are responding to the dictates of someone, somewhere. So you are not really free, but you will think you are free. A bird that's in a cage flies around, but it's not free. And the bird that has been born in the cage thinks flying is a disease because the bird has always been in the cage. So when Sami Ami and Teotano dos Santos said what they said, they were talking about a future that we are experiencing today. They were explaining that a time will come, those that have resources will be dependent on those who manage resources for them. Which brings us to André Gordon Frank. André Gordon Frank talked of the development of underdevelopment as a condition that will exist, whereby while your mates are moving forward, you will not be stagnant, you will not be static, you will be moving backwards. So that is underdevelopment. There is development, there is underdevelopment. So presently, African economies are not, though Europeans and liberals will tell you that, oh, we are emergent economies. In reality, we are underdeveloping. And this is what...
That is, Africa is sliding backwards.
Of course, that is what we are discussing this today. And that is what's happening now. Now, there is war between Russia and Ukraine. In Europe, we are not in Europe. We are in Africa. Yet we are crying that Europeans are fighting themselves. Let's put the picture very clear. What's the danger here? The basic items that Africans get from Russia and Ukraine is wheat and sunflower, which we use to make vegetable oil.
Yeah.
That's one. That's consumable. We get fertilizer mostly from Russia. We get crude oil from Russia. We also get steel imports. That's iron and steel.
Yeah.
We get them from Russia too. Okay. All these things I've mentioned, which one is not in Africa?
Yeah.
Everything is in Africa. This is why.
And that's what he said. He says it's in Africa.
You understand why I built up the explanation
Are they sure?
from before colonial rule?
Yeah.
That Nkrumah mentioned that we will be worse off. Francois also mentioned it. Francois said it will so affect our mentality that we will think that we are only successful because we behave like Europeans. That's where we are today. That there will be no disconnect because our mentality will be shackled to the Western model. So everything we do now is based on Western model. Let us not always look far. We should be using our country, Nigeria. Does Nigeria not have crude oil? Now, crude oil is selling at over $100 a barrel in the international market. Why are we paying more for petrol in Nigeria? We have this crude oil. Nigeria is exporting our own crude to buy refined products. That is a problem of internal failure, of leadership, of corruption, and to worsen it again, our insecurity. We have gas. Because the problem in Europe right now is that the price of crude oil and gas is right because Russia supplies 40% of gas consumed in Europe. Not that they don't have, but they fill up the gap. So Europeans have started opening, in Germany, they have opened their coal mines again, which they have capped before, because they were talking of going green. Under Angela Merkel, they've capped all the coal mines in Germany. They've opened those coal mines to respond to the threat of economic strangulation occasioned by the fact that they imposed sanctions on Russia. Russia is now withholding supply of gas. As of yesterday, Russia said they will still allow gas to come into Europe. Because Russia also needs some money from that gas to prosecute the war in Ukraine. Ukrainians need money from Europeans to fight Russia.
It's like a cycle thing.
It is very...
And Africa is crying.
Africans that should be benefiting.
Massively.
Africans that should be benefiting. This is very sad. This is our failure as a continent. This is why our leaders should begin to ask themselves if they are fit to lead this continent. Because we have everything it takes. The steel that we brought from iron and steel, we have in Nigeria. We have steel industry. We have Ajakuta. We have Alaja. They are not functioning.
Moribund right now.
Okay. We have in other parts of Africa. Ghana depends on Russia for 40% of our steel imports. Kenya depends on Ukraine for 26% of our grains. No, 46. In fact, the Kenyans are hard hit right now.
Yeah.
Nigeria, we were talking of, okay, going back to the farm. You can't get to your farm anymore because if you get to your farm, you will not come back. Is that the problem of the Europeans?
No.
That's our internal problem. So the impact on Africa is very massive. And let us also quickly mention one point. In 2020, there was lockdown, COVID. It shut down major economies in the world. Africa was negatively affected. In fact, more than 50 million Africans entered into abject poverty again. Recovery started in 2021. And in 2021, the African Continental Free Trade Act was developed from January 2021.
Yes.
So it was already a recovery mechanism. February 24th, 2022, Russia started special military operation in Ukraine. Correct. And by the time Russia attacked Ukraine, Europeans are very, very good. In fact, they are charitable to themselves. I don't fault them. It's our own failure. Europeans are telling that the money they would have given to African countries as grants, as development aid, as support, they are diverting it back to Ukraine to sustain the Ukrainian society. Because as the war is going on, they already calculated how much they will spend for reconstruction. They are also supplying arms to Ukraine. They are also taking Ukrainian refugees. Over 9 million are refugees now in Europe. In fact, the greatest refugee crisis in Europe since the Second World War is Russia's attack on Ukraine. So they have to take care of their own first. When they are taking care of their own, is it Africa they will listen to?
No.
Okay, the one that we could have benefited from, now that crude oil has gone up, Algeria, Nigeria, Tunisia, then Angola. These are oil-producing countries in Africa. Even Namibia has oil deposits. Equatorial Guinea has some. What are they doing? They are crying in the midst of plenty. We would have ramped up production. Nigeria is having challenge because, first, our own oil industry, the upstream sector is dominated by foreign technology companies. These are foreign prospective companies. Shell, F, Total Fina, and the rest, they are foreign. So they dictate how they run that part. Now let me, we need to be very strict about this.
Yeah.
Then you look at the fact that gas that is also in great need in Europe, we are busy flaring it in Nigeria. We have started NLNG project. LNG, Nigeria, they've seen Nigeria National Liquefied Gas Project. That's the only thing that Nigeria is Nigeria. Every other thing is foreign.
It's foreign.
So we don't even control the lifeblood of our economy, which is crude oil. We don't control the extraction. We don't control the refining. We don't control the market forces. And this is what we should have been praying for. This is what we call the bubble. The bubble has come for us now. It should have been a windfall to take our economy from the doldrums. One would have believed that since February till now, the amount of money would have raked in from the sale of crude oil would have been able to at least offset some of the loans. But today, in the report from the Ministry of Finance, the first quarter of the country now, the debt servicing factor of Nigeria has gone more than the revenue that we have generated. So Nigeria is now borrowing to pay debts.
That's right.
And meanwhile, God has so blessed. If our problem is that we are too blessed,
That's
it
right.
has created indolence.
You heard him. He has created indolence because we are just too blessed. So, in this particular situation, because like a projection, the leaders talked about before, they're like prophets into the future, that this may happen if things are not done the way they should be done. Now that we are in this situation, what do you think we should do? Or is there no hope? Or there's something we can do until the war ceases? Things will continue the way they are.
Well, what we should do, you see, it's if we have realized we have a problem, then we cannot start talking about the solution. You see, you cannot talk about a solution to a problem that you don't accept. Because from what I see among the political class, they seem not to understand what is going on. All he has said, you know, is just the way it is. We don't need to mince words, you know. Okay, what do? We need to look at it. Military strategy. They identify their problem first. Then they isolate the problem from causing disaster to areas that could then finally annihilate it. Have we identified the problem when bandits are threatening a sitting president that will kidnap you? Bandits threatening a sitting governor that will, you know, and none of them have been arrested or tried in any court that I know. Maybe they have, I don't know. As a lawyer, I don't know. So the big question is, we have this rivalry of Fulani headsmen, farmers, local farmers, poor people trying to help the economy in their own little way. Kill them, maim them, rape them, and they have not been prosecuted.
Anyway,
now, what I'm trying to say,
not to ascribe the killers or headers to a particular tribe.
but the headers, okay, well, if they said you shouldn't, the ones that we know, obviously, they have the tribe we're talking about. We are not trying to, we don't do nomadic movement here in my local environment. Anyway, that's by the way. But the point I'm making here is this. Before we start talking about let's wake up, where are we? 2023 election is coming. You can hear the kind of talk that is coming out. We are winning. We are not talking about the problem. We are talking about we want to get back to power, want to restore. And we don't see, the lecturer, I would say the professor has already explained now academically. I don't think it's different from what I've been saying. I was speaking politically in another, but he had come at least, let's say we didn't go to classroom. classroom lecturer has come to, so what else? We need to wake up from this. I told you, he said something now that I said before in a different way. Ogbemudia did not go to Harvard College, Harvard Business School, having 2 masters somewhere, and then he came back home. Look at what he did. So, you know, a whole lot of things. We need to wake up. We need to smell the coffee. We need to sit back and ask ourselves questions. We need to call a conference. I know we had one in 24. We need to redefine and renegotiate our common being together. So before we start talking of even 2023 election, I don't think there is, all that is not on my mind now. Do we even know where we are going to? ASU have been on strike. And you are talking about where do we start talking from? Students are roaming the streets, and a lot of them have taken to helping themselves along Airport Road and some areas in GRA. And we are saying they should get back home. To where? No school, no academy, no activity. So it's unfortunate.
All right. This is the problem.
It's unfortunate.
Africa has a young and vibrant population. And interestingly, they are growing. So, you see, these are all assets. If you are talking of development economics, what are the things you look at? First, let's go to secondary school economics. Land, labor, capital, then entrepreneur. So what is land? It's a gift of nature. It's everywhere. We have abundant land in Africa, Nigeria inclusive. What is capital? Human and financial, as well as the equipment. We can source, we can import, we can purchase. Okay.
Labor.
We have a young, vibrant population. Education is challenged right now, but we are still putting, the internet has even opened a new vista. Right now, people are doing self-learning. We are doing remote teaching. We are talking of distance learning. You can do online programs. So we learn every day. Social media is not giving you information. In fact, everybody is a journalist now in their house. You just buy a phone. As long as your phone can show your face, then you have data. Oh, you have become a broadcaster. So that is also there. Then entrepreneur. That is where you bring in the leadership skill. Those who are the business model. Are they using cost-benefit analysis? Are they using key performance indicators? They bring in all these things. TQ and total quality management. Do not factor in what is the best to give you the result. Africa is not lacking all this.
What is our problem?
That's what we are coming to now. Our problem is the synergy. And this is where you go back to that secondary school economics, they'll tell you that of all these factors of operation, which is the most important? The entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the one that we harness all of them. This is where leadership becomes. My coach has just mentioned leadership. Maybe he didn't drive it the way I will drive it. It is leadership that is, the followership, people follow leaders. You can lead from the front or you can lead from behind. You can be whipping them into a line from behind. You can be telling them, follow my pattern in front. Whichever way, you have the direction, you have the purpose, and you are moving the society towards that. Africa is a continent that has been, that's why I took you through the historical part, how we started. That we were, go back to the Bible, 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine.
Yes.
Africa, Egypt had enough. They were giving out. They had storehouses. The silos that we are talking of in Ukraine today, that they are bringing out wheat,
started from Egypt.
It is not even new. Most of the pyramids were storehouses. These are the things that Africa gave out. People were leaving other continents to come to Africa. We should beg our government to restore history as history from primary one. Not this modified version they call, whether they call it social studies or other things, maybe civic studies and
discuss some of vital.
Just leave it as history. The knowledge of what has happened so that you know where you are, so you can see where you are going to. It's important because in Africa today, we are having that same lack. In most of our countries, let's take it to East and South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe right now, their currency is in the tailspin. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe, where we call it that place, Rhodesia, was the food basket of that part of Africa. They see, it was when Mugabe took the land from the white farmers. And
mentioned that also.
That's how Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels met in the conference in Paris. And they became friends for life. Intellectuals think alike. They don't need to be sitting together. That's why you collaborate in research too. Oh, the idea I'm expressing is what he has expressed. I wasn't here. But these are the truths. And if you are going
to reclaim the land, hunger came.
If you are going to Lagos, you enter the road to Kamfachan, you will never get to Lagos. Unless you have gone around the world, and that will take you a longer time. So we should ask African leaders, what have you learned about your challenges? Rwanda is getting it right already. Egypt is getting it right. Even though Egypt is using stronger method, using Assisi has to use force. Yes. Algeria is stabilizing. Tunisia is stabilizing. We should be looking at these projections. But if you want to ask me now, let me respond to the question you asked now. What is the way out? Are we doomed? We are not doomed. This is always the painful part. All we need to do is to make those painful decisions. And what are the painful decisions? First, we should know that we have enough viable land. We are buying fertilizer from Russia. What are the key components of fertilizer? Nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. We have these things here. Don't we have fertilizer planted in Nigeria? Dangote is building one in Ibejuleti. So we can talk of Africans. The intra-African market is larger than the business Africans do with outsiders. Just the Africans have refused to synergize. That's why we have a problem.
All right, our time is up. I'm a very strong signal from the PD to say we'll call it a wrap right now. In 30 seconds each, do you think this would persist until the war ceases? 30 seconds.
Well, if we have a change of hearts, like leaders wake up and smell the coffee, decide to do the needful, it's not rocket science. It's just to have the willpower and do the needful.
Thank you so much, Barrister. I appreciate you. Well, 30 seconds.
Well, as it is right now, we are not going out of the doldrums. We are going to get deeper in the muck. It's not going to change because the war in Ukraine is still ongoing. It will need Africans waking up and realizing their failures and using this one as a wake-up call to re-strategize and rethink their methods.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate a wonderful analysis. Well, you heard them. Dr. Patrick Awosage was speaking before our lecturer here came on board. You realize that they made the same point, though they were like, not together. And that seems to be, if not seem, is the problem of Africa. We have everything. Why are we still crying when Russia and Ukraine are fighting? Why are we still struggling because two nations are loggerhead? They're not even in the continent. How come the economy determines what we get in our own continent? Can't we wake up and do something tangible to take us out of the shackles, to set us free from what negativities that the war is causing even in our own continent? But what they said finally, leadership. It all boils down to leadership. The president, the vice president, parliament, House of Rep, Senate, you just name it. Even to you looking at us, one way or the other, we are leaders in our own field. Do the right thing at the right time with the right intention. Definitely we'll get it. Gentlemen, thank you once more. I appreciate the analysis.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Bye for now.